Hey folks, it's Ben Edwards from Life in the Borough. I want to thank you for joining me for this 5-part series featuring each of the candidates running for Whitesboro ISD School Board. I hope each of these videos will give you a little insight into the character and the principles and the issues that are important to each candidate. I've incorporated some of your recommended questions as well as some of mine so we can see where they believe our district stands. But this isn't just about the issues, it's also about getting to know them as people as well. Now, I will say that each of these candidates went out of their way, and many of them changed their schedules to come and spend an hour with me, and thereby spending an hour with you. Those that are willing to serve our community, our kids, sacrificing their time with their families to make our community a little bit better is commendable for sure. And so I encourage you to tune into all 5 and then make an informed decision, an educated decision, either in early voting or on Election Day, May 3rd. So I thank you for being here. I'll ask you to subscribe to the channel and enjoy these videos. Thanks. Hello, Whitesboro. Welcome again to another edition of Life in the Borough. I'm your host, Ben Edwards, as always, and today starts a series of interviews that we're going to be doing with the school board candidates for 2025 here for WISD. Today we have with us an incumbent, somebody who has served on the board for the last 6 years. Is that right? 6 years?
6 years, yes, sir.
6 years. And somebody who has been serving the town for a long time in many different capacities. Please welcome to the program, Michael Parish. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Michael, I see you're reading the paper.
Yeah, you had it here.
The
So
Whitesboro News Record. That's a shameless plug. Yeah. Well, welcome to the program. It's good to have you, man.
yeah, thank you. I really do appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm going to say this to all the candidates. Enough cannot be said about the appreciation from the community on your willingness to serve us. I know from experience that this is not always the easiest thing to do, is to be in a leadership position and have to deal with the slings and arrows of the public.
Yeah,
It's never an easy job, and it takes somebody with thick skin. And not only that, but it takes somebody who can lead and share credit and do what's best for the community. And so it's a tough responsibility to take on, and we appreciate you your willingness to do it.
Yeah.
Not just for the last 6 years, but for the future. So that's awesome. Now today, I just want to, like we said beforehand, I just want to get to know you a little bit better, and let the people of Whitesboro and the community get to know you and your experience as an incumbent on the board, as well as get to know you as a person a little bit, your character, and about your family and your experience having kids in the system. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
cool. So according to the newspaper and the Meet the Candidates type thing that y'all did, you have. Is this right? You have three kids in 3 different campuses?
Yes, sir. So 3 girls. I've got Emma, who is a sophomore this year. And then I've got Sophie. She's in the 7th grade at the middle school. And then I've got Harper, who's in 2nd grade at the primary.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it can be.
Drop-off has got to be ridiculous.
So Amber does it more than I do. But she has a very strategic way of doing it.
Yeah.
So she gets it knocked out pretty quick.
Who gets dropped off first?
So it depends on the day. So depending on if Emma has like early weights or early practice.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But most of the time it's Sophie. So this is where it kind of gets confusing because when we were in sports, Sophie would have to be up at the gym at 6:30. Sometimes Emma has to be up there at 6. Luckily,
yeah.
she gets a ride with one of her friends. Thank you, Gentry, for that. And then in those cases, Harper just gets up there like between 7:30 and 7:40.
Yeah.
So
we've got 2 kids, one at intermediate, one at primary, and that's enough. But where they're not involved in a ton of, I mean, my oldest has UIL and STEM, but that's all after school. It makes it a whole lot easier. We haven't gotten up to the extracurricular stuff that you got to show up way early.
Yeah, and you know, kudos to all the coaches for being up there as early as well because, you know, they get up there at 6 a.m. and then some of the kids don't get home till 5:30, 6 o'clock. So
Yep.
It's a full day.
Yeah, they earn those summers off.
They really do.
Yeah.
So, and some of them are working through the summer too. So
That's true, yeah. So how long have you been in Whitesboro?
So I was born and raised in Whitesboro. We moved away for a couple of years to Winsboro. My dad got transferred. And then we came back. There was an opportunity at Foxworth for my dad to come back. And so probably most of my life, other than a couple years in college, a couple years in Denton, and then a couple years in Winsboro. So
Now, your dad was at Foxborough for a long time, yeah?
long
At
time.
Foxborough, sorry.
That's okay. I
Mm.
think 35 plus years. So yeah, he's
Just
very
recently retired, yeah?
he a couple years ago. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's nice. Everyone knows him in town.
Yeah.
It's gone to the new store that we don't talk about.
Right.
And don't go in there if we can help it. But yeah, I mean, everyone in Whitesboro seemed to know him just because of him helping out at Foxworth.
Yeah.
So
And you said your oldest is how old?
she's 15, about to be 16,
Okay, so-
and she's finishing up her sophomore year.
So they've gone nowhere but Whitesboro then.
That's all they know.
Yeah. How has the district changed in that amount of time?
Just from the very beginning, just the size of the district has exploded. So you go from smaller classes to huge classes. But obviously, more cars on the road. Trying to get in and out of the campuses has
Right.
been a struggle. These new amenities that are coming, like that's going to be a huge change. Like the multipurpose building, the auditorium, like
Right.
that'll be a huge change. When I was growing up, I think the first graduating year that came out of the high school, the new high school.
Yeah.
So just seeing it change from a 3-campus district to a 4-campus district, and now with that early childhood center going
5.
to a 5, I
Yep.
mean, it's grown a lot.
So for those that aren't aware of exactly what we're getting with the bond package that passed last year, the Early Childhood Center is going to lower the entrance age for students, as well as minimize the amount of grades within each of the younger campuses.
Yes.
Correct.
Mhm.
Middle school will remain the same, and high school will remain the same.
That's correct.
But intermediate, primary, can you tell us how that's divided up now and how it's going to be divided up?
So that can be kind of confusing, and I might be wrong about it, but I believe that currently in the primary we have pre-K, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the intermediate we have 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Middle school we use normal 6th, 7th, 8th, and then freshmen and through seniors going to be in your high school. I believe the early education is going to take over the pre-K and kindergarten, and then you'll just have your 1st and 2nd in the primary.
So that not only solves a couple of problems for overcrowding, which I know that y'all have a major issue with. Some of the selling points for a lot of citizens with the bond was the news that y'all were having to change offices into classrooms and closets into offices.
Yes. So what the school does with what they have is pretty amazing. So we're running out of space very quickly, but the teachers and the students are very understanding. It seems like, but yeah, you have like office staff working out of. I think they changed a bathroom over to an office for someone.
Yeah.
So, they're very understanding, and they seem to be able to work from wherever. But they do a great job.
Now, the process of the bond, I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but the process of the bond is not only a long process, but there's 1,000 details. Was the finished product what you had expected it to be? Or, because I know that it changed in scope. Originally, there was talk about adding one additional school, and then then it kind of morphed into this additional, on the younger level, additional campus, and then spreading out of the others. And that seemed to be what the committee, I assume, thought that was the better plan. Yeah, it seemed like a better use of the funding across the board.
So
At least that's the way it felt.
yeah. So when we originally met
I
for the
thought.
bond, we broke up into groups. There was like 50 people there, and thank you for everyone that was part of that bond process. But we broke up into groups and we listed like the main issues that we had.
Yep.
And when the groups came back together, we kind of consolidated all of those issues. And I believe space was one of the number one issues. So that obviously was something that we wanted to take care of.
So, were you happy with I won't say, are you happy with the finished product? Of course you were. What I'm asking is, did it end up being the vision that y'all had at the beginning?
I think so.
How close?
I think that it came pretty close. We were able to get a couple of things that I think we really need, which was an updated ag barn, and that multi-purpose building is going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then not just the school, but also the auditorium. So the auditorium is going to be able to do a bunch of things for us, and it's going to be a nice thing to have at the school, something we've never had in our community. So.
Yeah, the addition of the improved ag barn, as well as I'm not sure the term that y'all are using, but it's like a trade, an area where you're doing focus on trades.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call it? Do you remember what it's called?
Now there's a different wing that's like the science and technology wing that's going to be added to the building. But yeah, I think it's just an ag barn. I couldn't say that it's a specific name.
Right. That process is a very political process, having to try to come up with a product to then encourage the public to be willing to spend some extra money to get for the students. The bond itself, the main package, passed pretty strongly.
It was good to see.
Yeah, and the additional facility that was the second part of that vote, the second part of that bond, passed by a little.
Yes.
But that tells you that you not only have a majority for both, but a much larger majority for the main meat of the thing. I think that it's an investment. Obviously, some people are, with taxes as they are, especially property taxes, with the county, nobody's happy with that. So this was a big ask. Were you surprised with the results?
I wouldn't say surprised. I was glad to see as many people voted as did, because it's always kind of not upsetting, but kind of depressing to see how many people actually vote in Whitesboro. So we have a pretty good population, but you never have a really good voter turnout.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're asking for people for money, more people come out and vote.
Right.
And it was good to see that. But just voting, for our kids' future. I know it's easier to vote for academics and education. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to vote for sports things.
Right.
Because they see it as not every student being able to use. But if you have kids like in PARD or any kind of community, we use the fields all the time. We use the gyms all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily just for the kids in Whitesboro. We have people coming in from Collinsville and other cities that use our facilities as well for PARD.
Right.
And this multi-purpose facility will be the same thing. So people will be able to use it.
So you said you grew up here, you went to school here. Do you feel that you have, I won't say a unique perspective, but having been a student in the district itself and now having the leadership spots that will allow you to make decisions that impact the future of our ISD, does it feel full circle for you? When you look at it, does it feel more personal than it would be for somebody who, like me, who came in from a different place and has been here 6 years? Do you feel more of a responsibility, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. You feel very personal about it. These are the places that you went. These are the football fields you played on. These are the gyms you played in. So you definitely have more of a personal level commitment to seeing it grow and continue to be successful. I believe I was part of the first band program that made it to state, and now you see it year after year that we're going to state. But just the city in itself, you feel almost like you owe it for helping you grow up and all of the things that we were given when we were kids. You definitely want to give back because, again, you feel like it's something that you owe to the future, just like when I was growing up, all of those people that were in service positions, they did for us. So it's definitely more on a personal level.
Tell me about your experience over the first 6 years. So is this, do you all serve 3-year terms? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you've served 2 terms, looking for a third.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your experience so far. I know that the bond has been kind of the main focus over the last year and a half or so. And I know I was on that committee for the bond, and I know how much time and effort y'all put into that. And all the volunteers as well that helped with coming up with ideas and guiding that. Other than the past year when that's been your focus, what has been your experience in your first year? How long does it take to learn this position?
I don't honestly think that you can say that you've ever learned the position because it's constantly changing. So you're
Yeah.
having to constantly learn. But definitely when the first year I came in, I mean, my eyes were open to a lot of the things that previous boards had to deal with. You think that it's not as immersive as it is. Like there's a lot of things you don't think of when you're running for your first time, everything that you're responsible for. Not just the tax dollars or the policies that you're setting, but you're now responsible in the people of Whitesboro's eyes as you're responsible for their children. And besides, money, children are people's most important aspect of their life. And you learn that very quickly because you make one wrong decision or you change the way things have been for a while. Like you get a lot of heated phone calls. And that's the way it should be.
Yep.
And that's what we're there. We're kind of as a intermediate between the schools and the public. They can come to us, hear what we're doing, hear what we're doing to change things or, so keep things the same. But we're there just as a intermediate source for the public. And that's something that I didn't really think about when I first got in. People try to necessarily warn you about how things are going to be, and you don't really know it until you get that first phone call. And you're like, we were just hanging out yesterday, and today you're yelling at me.
Oh, yeah.
Because of something that not necessarily I was responsible for, but the seven of us were responsible for. You honestly think that you have more of a voice than what you do, but you are fighting 6 other people in that room. And fighting is the wrong word. You're talking and collaborating with them.
Right.
And obviously one person's experience is completely different from the other 6. So just trying to come together and do the best thing for Whitesboro. It's not always easy. And sometimes you take a lot of flack for the decisions that you make, and you just have to be able to go with that and deal with it and understand that that's part of the process.
Y'all have gone through some important decisions over the years in the time that you've been there. I know that there was a lot of dissension about the former football coach going a few years back. Were you on that at the time?
I came in on the tail end of that.
Right at the end. Yeah.
So it had already been decided, and then I made the school board the following year.
Yeah, gotcha. I know that y'all implemented the arming the teachers.
Yes.
A couple years ago. That was a big decision. I don't know if that was an easy or hard decision for y'all to make, but
it's easier than what you would think. You definitely want to protect your students.
Yep.
And if you have teachers that are willing to stand up and say, I will protect your child, it's very easy to give them the tools to be able to do that. So,
yeah, my family came from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That would never have happened down there. I couldn't have been happier when that happened here. I was very pleased to see that was implemented. I thought that even though we live in a very, let's say, not politically necessary, but conservative area, that is still something that somebody's going to get yelled at about passing that. And I think the vast majority of the responses were probably positive, but those that are negative are going to be loud. And so that took a little bit of guts to do that and to stand behind it. So, but that's, easier than you think. Yeah, as far as approval from everybody agreeing that this was a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily make it easy to implement with the public.
For sure. And one of the greatest things that happened because of that is that we got to put those signs in front of our schools, and those signs deter several instances on their own. But obviously, protecting our students is one of our main priorities, and we have to give them the tools to be able to do that and protect themselves. And obviously, if you don't stand behind that, you should definitely have a loud voice, for your reasons why.
Yep.
But no, I think it's one of the best things that we've done in the last couple of years. So,
tell people who aren't in the loop about the rising student population. I don't think people quite realize. If you live outside of Whitesboro and you're in the district, you have a pretty good idea. But I think those perhaps in Whitesboro, the residents that are here, I don't think that they realize just how big the district is. Can you tell us first of all, how large is the district? Where does it stretch to? How many students are filtered in? And then what is the rate at which what's our expectations for the next few years as far as student population?
Sure. So we service children in Whitesboro, and I believe we go north up through Gordonville and Sherwood Shores, and then we kind of go towards SNS. I don't know exactly where the breakoff is, but we pull kids from all of those different areas. So it's a very large school district. When I graduated in 2002, we had 82, and it's been pretty close to that for the last, 10 years or so, but we've definitely seen a huge jump in the classes. So having kids or having a class size over 100 was unheard of. And then now here recently, I believe we're graduating or just graduated the smallest class that we'll have going forward. So all of them are going to be over 130, 140 kids. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have 12 grades plus pre-K of 100 kids, that's a bunch of children that are going to be in our school system. And it's coming, it's coming from the south up to the north.
Sure.
So when I was playing football, we played Salina, and they were 2A.
Mm-hmm.
And now I believe Salina's on the up end of 4A going into 5A. And then I believe that for Whitesboro, we probably won't be 3A for very much longer. The small little town of Whitesboro will be going to 4A. And it's kind of scary thinking about the schools that we're playing in sports as a very small 4A.
That's true.
Because we've definitely seen some success in 3A here recently.
Oh, yeah.
With all of our sports.
Now, how you said you played in band. What did you play?
I played in the drum line.
Really?
Yes, sir.
You still play?
No.
When was the last time you picked up a drum? Wait, which drum did you play?
I played the snare drum.
Okay.
So, I'm constantly banging on tables.
You were one of the cool kids.
Well, the coolest of the drum line, I guess. Yeah. No, we had a very good drum line. But it always seemed like there was two different parts of the band, the drum line and then the band. And so we always felt a little separated from them. And it's because, all we were doing was banging on a drum. We weren't having to do tone and, actually play music. We were just banging a drum. So it was definitely a lot of fun. But, yeah, the band was great, and the band is still great.
Yeah.
And that's good to see that over the years it's continued to be as good as it is.
So my wife, I don't know if you know, was a drum major in high school.
Oh, nice.
Talking about school sizes, graduating class sizes, she was, when she graduated from Plano Senior High, and she said there was, 2,000 students in her class, graduating class.
Oh, man.
It was like an all-day event. People went and had lunch and stuff and came back while they were naming the names, and they're going across the. But she was drum major at Plano Senior High, and then she went to TCU and was a drum major there.
Oh, wow.
So in our family, I didn't play. I played in rock and roll bands. I was playing guitar, but so I didn't have anything to do with marching band. But it's she was passionate about it then, and so the band and the support for the band is super important to her. And so because of that, me. And so we always, we're big fans of the Pride of Whitesboro, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Did they call it the Pride of Whitesboro when you were there?
So like I said, when we were going through my 4 years, I believe the Pride of Whitesboro came at that time. That's when we got known as the Pride of Whitesboro.
So it's you.
Well, not necessarily me. Like I said, I was in the drum line, so a very small part of the band. But
you say that, but that's the heartbeat of the band, right?
Yeah. More so the bass drums, really.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but it was a lot of fun, and with Pat Autry behind the helm, we did some really great things. It was a lot of fun.
I assume you played sports as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about that.
So I played football, basketball, baseball, and golf. And being a smaller school, you were expected to play several sports. So
were you one of the people who took the jersey off and the shoulder pads and ran over and grabbed your drum and marched at halftime?
Yeah.
So I got to know, because this is not a thing where I came from, but this is clearly here. I mean, you see it everywhere, right? We got cheerleaders who are on the color guard, and they're in the band as well, and they're all this, and I love that. It shows dedication
for sure.
But what happens when the football field comes back the football team comes back onto the field, and they have revamped the strategy for the second half, and you have no idea what's going on? How does that work?
Well, not to say anything bad about our football team, we weren't very good when I was.
So strategy didn't matter.
There wasn't much of a strategy other than, just play the rest of the 2 quarters. But usually we got done pretty quick, and we would get in there and be able to learn and go over everything we needed to go. So,
What position did you play in football?
so I played a couple of positions, quarterback, running back.
Quarterback?
Yeah, not very long. So, just a couple of years.
Really?
Yes, sir.
You were the Bearcat quarterback?
Not for the varsity for it's Kevin Hartless, which is on the school board.
Sure.
He played quarterback, and I believe he got injured, and I went in and played for a couple of games for him.
So we got to look up your stats, is what you're saying.
Don't look him up.
What year?
So-
What year was this?
It'd be 2001, 2002.
I'm
And
sure,
then-
sure we can find the stats on that.
I hope not. 2002, I got moved back to running back.
Okay.
And then Brad Henderson took over the helm as quarterback.
How'd you do at running back?
I did okay. So nothing that stood out.
What was your best sport?
I don't know. My favorite sport was definitely baseball.
What'd you play in baseball?
So started off at second base and then moved out to left field and then kind of right field.
Okay. So you got a good arm.
It's okay.
Everything is just okay. I was okay drummer. I just played
Yeah,
the snare. I didn't play the. You're a humble guy.
I guess I'm not a big fan of talking about myself. So
Well, that's not what this podcast is all
uh,
about. Okay, so how are your kids doing in the school system? Like,
so
are they looking forward to those changes? Do they understand that big changes are coming?
yes and no.
I'm sure your oldest does.
My oldest does.
Yeah.
And she'll get to see a couple of them. Sophie and Harper will really get to see the facilities and see how they're used and really benefit from them. The biggest one that Emma's been able to benefit from is the turf on the softball field. So
Yeah.
that was a big change, and I really love having it because, again, my youngest and my middle, when she did play softball, they get to use that field too.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's nice being out there, being able to, use it for a bunch of different people, not just the high school.
So baseball stadium. When's that getting?
Whenever it does, that's when it'll happen.
Oh.
So, and I know it's something that's in the future.
Okay.
I prefer to play on grass.
Yeah.
And I think that's an opinion that's shared with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Grass, in my mind, plays a lot more fun than turf.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot bigger expense because it's a huge field compared to the softball field.
Right.
So, but in my personal opinion, it would be nice to be grass for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I that was one of the questions that we put out a little questionnaire for people if they wanted to have some questions that we would ask you all across the board. And that was one of the ones that was addressed. And we get that. We hear it those things a lot. I think a lot of it, nothing against the district or athletic department, but I feel like the baseball field is not as maintained as, I mean, it's got to be hard to maintain that, first of all. But it always, to me, when I go watch a game, it feels like this is even I feel like there's a level of improvement without moving to turf. Does that make sense? Yeah. I don't want to sound critical, but
no. And you're asking these maintenance guys and the coaches to take care of most of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, back when I was in high school, the field would flood all the time. So we were out with pumps in the outfield pumping the water out. So we spent a lot of time. So maybe that's why I have a little bit more personal involvement with the grass.
Yeah.
Because I was out there a lot of the times pumping that water out of the outfield just so we could play and practice. So
yeah. So me seeing it as this is me going, there's probably some level of improvement, but you seeing it and saying, hey, it's not flooded.
Yeah.
This is great.
Huge improvement. Yeah.
This is the yes, a steak is better than the hamburger, but a hamburger is better than the salad, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it just depends on where you're coming from, right? If all you had salad all week. I personally, I don't want to play baseball on turf.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that a lot of this comes from going to other towns and seeing, oh, look, everything's brand new, like Salina, for instance. My daughter plays softball at the Salina.
They've got some
fields
great, but that's like a city thing. That's not necessarily a school system.
True.
They have some great fields. But again, that was something that the city did.
Yep.
And so not completely different, but a little bit different and different, a little bit different money, coming from the city versus the school district. But yeah, it would be awesome to have those kind of facilities here in Whitesboro one day.
Yeah, it's got to happen eventually. So we see your Salina Fire
Yes.
and your Whitesboro Fire Department. So explain that for people so they're not confused.
Oh, yeah, sure. So 7 years ago, I started volunteering for the Whitesboro Fire Department. I was still working for Bed Bath & Beyond and just looking for a way to serve the community. So I got on to as a volunteer, and after a couple years of volunteering, like talking about earlier about owing the city, like Whitesboro fire, so much. They taught me that fire could be a career, not necessarily just a pastime volunteering. After a couple of years, Whitesboro helped me get my fire cert, my EMT cert, and then I went and got my medic cert. And someone being my age trying to get into the fire system, you have to have your medic. Um, and I got on at a couple of departments, and then finally got on my dream department of Salina. So I've been there for 2.5 years. But it all started with volunteering with Whitesboro, and I continue to volunteer with Whitesboro. It's fun, and it's talking about changes with the city. The Whitesboro Fire Department is moving up quickly, especially with Pinkston and Patterson really pushing all of that growth. Yeah, it's great, and this is one of the things that I will plug about Whitesboro Fire. A lot of people, and I know we're talking about the school board.
That's all right.
But
we're trying to get to know you.
I don't think the city of Whitesboro really appreciates the volunteer fire department of what they have. Not necessarily what they do. I think most cities appreciate their volunteer fire department, but the amount of people that we have that are certified, not just fire EMTs, but they really don't understand how many medics are up there. And it's a hard cert to get it as your paramedic, and then you have people wanting to come up here and do it for free for the city of Whitesboro.
And not only that, but I don't think people understand that there's 40 plus volunteer firefighters, which is a huge number.
It's
for a town this size.
In an area that volunteering is coming down all over the United States. It's hard to find people that are willing to go do these things that people do for a living and do it for free. And in Whitesboro, we actually have a waiting list. Like, people are wanting to get onto our department. And again, that goes back to Pinkston and Patterson.
Right.
Like, really developing a department that people want to work at and be a part of. So
it's a good culture. I know that in Salina, y'all just got one of our previous guests, Rustin Reedy, who's down there.
Yeah, Reedy, and then Michael De Piazza.
Yeah, so some buds of yours, right?
Absolutely. And that's another good thing. Whitesboro is a very good training ground. People come in, they learn what they're supposed to do, and then they get on. Like, there have been several guys over the past several years that have come from the volunteer going into the paid sector. Yeah. And it's because of what they've learned at Whitesboro. So
you are serving our community in many different ways.
Yes, sir. And volunteering is a lot of fun. So we don't always see it as serving. It's just,
well, school board, fireman, and part-time starting quarterback.
We can leave that out. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun to give back to a city you feel that you owe so much to. So Whitesboro's a great town, and being down closer to the Metroplex, you see a lot of things that Whitesboro does well. I mean, Whitesboro doesn't do everything well, but you come in, and it's great going to Easy Mart and knowing the cashiers there and being able to talk to them, going into Brookshire Brothers and talking to people there. Like, you don't always get that in the big cities, but you get that here in Whitesboro.
Yeah, of course. So. And that's what got to be one of the big benefits of having grown up here. We know a lot of people in town, but there are still many people who we see their face 50 times. We recognize them, but I couldn't tell you who they are or who their family is, or and that's something that it's really difficult to pick up on. It takes forever, especially when you're like me and you're terrible with faces and names. But having grown up here, you pretty much have to know everybody, even if you don't know them personally. You know that they're somebody's big sister or little sister, or you went to school, your brother went to school with them, that type of thing.
Yeah, it helps out. Now, I'm not as good at it as my wife Amber is. She knows literally everybody, and I usually have to lean over and be like, "Hey, who was that?" But she's, I don't know how she does it, but if she meets you one time, she'll know you the rest of her life.
I don't have that
gene at all. But it's nice having her there to take care of me when I need it. But at what you were saying, like growing up in Whitesboro, yeah, you definitely see people you went to high school with that, parents of kids you went to high school with, getting to see them, getting to see their kids and grandkids. And then, feeling super old when all the people you went to high school with start having kids and grandkids, and not really realizing how we got this age so quickly.
I get that completely. Yeah. We had our kids about 10 years after most of our peers. We waited a long time. We were married for 10 years before we had kids. And now we go to birthday parties or school events and looking around, and everybody there is 33, and we're well into our 40s, and it's like, oh, we're old. We're old, and but I think of it as our children are learning from wiser parents, right?
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
it. Yeah,
But I mean,
not
we,
these millennials.
but we definitely saw with Emma. Like with Emma, like a lot of our people our age were having kids at the same time. And now with Harper, we're the old kids, old
Yeah.
parents.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so you definitely we saw both ends of it.
What's that experience like? Because I mean, my kids are 3 years apart, and you said second grade is your youngest,
Second grade is our youngest.
so like 4 or 5.
Yeah. So Emma and Sophie are pretty close. I think they're 3 years apart.
Okay.
And Harper was our surprise. We thought we were done having kids, and then Harper came along, and
Yep.
we realized that she was what we were missing in our family. But you definitely see a huge gap. Like, Emma being, almost a junior, like, and then seeing her play with Harper and Sophie, like, yeah, it was definitely different. And plus, as a parent, like, you definitely get more relaxed as
Yeah.
everything's got to be perfect for that first kid.
Uh-huh.
And then the second kid, you're like, well, you'll be fine.
Right.
And then by the third kid, you're like,
Did you break something?
yeah.
No. Then be quiet.
Yeah. Like we gave you 2 sisters to play with. Go play with them.
Yeah, exactly. This is your best friend. Go get out of
Yeah.
here, right? So, but you do have one big advantage, and that sounds like you have a built-in babysitter at all times.
We do, and it's been like a game changer. We always had to find babysitters for our kids, and then as Emma's gotten older, like we just realized here within the last 2 years that Emma can babysit for us, and we
Yeah.
can go actually have a date night, or just go for a drive, or and not have to bring everyone with us.
Yeah.
And it's very nice. And we've already warned Emma that when she turns 16, that she's pretty much going to be taking care of everything for us. So driving
You're in
them,
charge of the house.
driving them everywhere, picking them up, going to get groceries. Yeah, she's gonna be responsible for most of that.
So, what's the experience like of having? What is your kids' experience knowing that their dad is on the school board?
Honestly, I don't think they see much of that at home, and I honestly don't think that they really realize what we do or what we're responsible for. They just know that the second Monday of every month I go to a school board meeting if I'm not at work.
Right.
Of course, they ask questions about things, but they're just like every other kid in the school. Like, not many kids at the school actually know who's on the school board.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something they say, like my dad's on the school board.
Yeah. Yeah. My oldest is 8 now, and I ran for council 3 years ago. She was 5. I mean, she didn't really get it. And I remember when I won, and she said, I need you to do something for me. And I said, okay. And she said, I need you to make every restaurant in town do Happy Meals.
Yeah.
I was like, Happy Meal? Okay, I'll see what I can do.
That would have been pretty sweet if you got that accomplished.
Yeah, so make Tanner do Happy Meals over here.
Why not?
Beggars, yeah. Only for my kid, I guess.
Yeah, hey, that's even better.
Yeah, it's they don't quite get it. They'll figure it out one day.
And I will say that this has come up, a couple of times where, they kind of figure out you're on the school board and they're like, well, you get special privileges because, we're on the school board, and I'm like, no, you get it harder because we're on the school board. So
that's right. Yeah.
You're a reflection of me, and so you've got to be, more well behaved. You have to say yes sir, yes ma'am. You unfortunately you don't get it easier. You get it harder. So
has this role been easier or more difficult than you expected it to be on day one?
I would say way more difficult.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you really understand until you get into it, and it takes a toll on you.
It does. Yeah. I can imagine.
You go in thinking that you're going to be responsible. In my case, for 3 kids, you're not responsible for 3 kids. You're responsible for all of them. And like I said earlier, like this is the most important thing in people's lives. And you do something that they don't like, you're going to hear about it, and it takes a personal toll on you. You get phone call after phone call. You're dealing with these people. When they see you in public, they want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, they understand that more goes into it than that. But at that moment, their personal issue is the most important issue, and they need you to treat it as such. And when you get all of those negative calls, which I'm sure as a councilman, I'm pretty sure no one ever came up and said, hey, wow, you're doing a great job, and I just want to say thank you, because everything's better because of you. Like, you don't get those. And that's okay, because if everything's running well, you don't hear anything, and that's the way it should be. But when something goes wrong, like, it's your fault.
Yeah, and that's funny too that you say that, because it is it's very much um, if something goes wrong, it's no longer a board decision.
Mm-mm.
It's a you decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the role you take on, and it's a tough role to take. Now, here's the real question: is if it has been more difficult than you expected, it must also be more rewarding than you expected for you wanting to continue to do it. Did you have any when your first term was over? Did you have any hesitation about running again?
The first time, no. So this time a little bit more hesitation, just because as some issues have come up, and you get a little bit more personal with people. You realize that 6 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And there's obviously things that you could do with your time besides, being that person and being on the school board. But again, like you said, it's very rewarding. Seeing things come around, seeing things get better, hiring people, keeping people, and then getting these new facilities and such. Like you know that you were a part of that, and you're part of the process that continues to get better. Like just hearing from what my girls say about school, like obviously there's teachers they don't like, and that's more personal necessarily than other things. But knowing that you helped get these things in place, it is rewarding. So
yeah, getting to see things done that you played a role in, that everybody seems to feel is better for the town, better for the ISD, has got to be is something that you can take pride in. It makes it worthwhile to an extent.
For sure.
We talked about some of the big decisions y'all have made in your tenure there, but now that you're done with the process of planning, creating, planning, preparing, selling the bond. I hate to make it sound like selling, but I mean, the ISD is going to get behind it.
Absolutely.
They got to sell it to the public. They got to make their case for why it's beneficial. Now that that's done, and the initial stages of the actual work are approaching, what are going to be the big issues that come up in the next 3 years? I mean, what do you know? Obviously, things are going to come up that are unexpected, but what are the things that citizens, parents should know that are on the horizon that we may not be aware of? What do y'all have that you're going to be facing over the next 3 years?
Well, just with building these facilities, it's going to be like a struggle getting roads and all of the facilities and utilities to these things. So it's going to be a slow process. Hopefully it goes faster than what it does. But that's probably going to be the biggest struggle, is getting all these roads connected, making sure the roads are safe, making sure that drop off and pick up are easy. Not saying that they are right now, because I go through it most of the days during the week, and these teachers do a great job of getting kids into the cars and getting them out of the cars. There are some roads that are going to be coming up that help drop off easier, but it's going to take a while to get these things up and going. And there are going to be things like the parking lot being torn up here pretty soon to be redone. Hopefully it gets done before the end of summer. But then everything else, like when things go under construction, it causes issues other places. So just people being patient with how it's probably going to take a little bit longer for drop off and pick off for a little bit, but it'll eventually get better.
Right. It's got to get worse before it gets better.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you see that everywhere with construction. I've, the 289, or not 289, but the tollway coming through.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's been going for 20 plus years. It just takes a while. But that would probably be the biggest issue I would tell people to be wary about, is just the traffic, and then just dealing with all that construction.
Yeah, we went through the process of redoing Texoma Drive,
Yeah.
and that took a long time. Took a long time to get
it
started.
It looks great.
Yeah, I haven't heard a whole lot of feedback from anybody over there, so I'm assuming that
means
if
it's
you
good.
don't, but that process it's hard to sell to somebody. Hey, it's going to be awful for a while, but
it'll get there.
It'll get there. I think most people understand that, though.
I would think so. But I mean, when you've been sitting in traffic for a while, or it's longer than what it used to be, like it, and I hate to bring up Whitesboro Express, but I feel like there'll be a lot of issues on Whitesboro Express about it. But hopefully, like you said, it goes pretty quickly, and it gets done, and it's good.
So do you feel like the majority of what is going to be on the radar for the next few years is going to be implementation of this bond?
Yes. So here pretty soon, like in the next month, we'll be breaking ground.
What's the very first thing citizens can expect to see?
They're going to see a lot of dirt work. So there's going to be a lot of dirt work out there where the early childhood center is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The parking lot is going to be destroyed here pretty soon after school lets out. And then, as they start working on the
Now,
auditorium. I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Tell everybody which parking lot are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, the high school parking lot. So
Okay.
it's going to be redone. So it's going to be, I believe, completely torn up and then redone so that it can accommodate students, teachers, and for people coming into the auditorium.
So you're talking about the parking lots near the softball field and
Yes.
the gym entrance area?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Sorry, did you have a question after that?
I have
Or what
no
were we
idea.
talking about?
Yeah, good question. I don't know what my question is.
Yeah.
So implementation of this is the main focus over the next term.
For sure. And it'll be something, and that's one of the, like I said, that I had a few hesitations about running for school board this time, but seeing this through over the next couple of years is a big.
Yeah, do you feel
Push.
responsible, not responsible, do you feel obliged to see the job done?
Absolutely. And it's a big thing that we pushed during these last few years. And again, not necessarily, to say, hey, like I did that or I was a part of that, but just to make sure it gets done and it gets done the way that we originally saw it being done. And then, just, being happy with how it is. So.
Are there any other issues outside of the bond that the school district is facing? I know that this this alleviates to an extent the overcrowding issue, but with the growth that we're seeing, a lot of people I believe a lot of people in town hear about coming growth, especially from the south. But then when they look around Whitesboro, they're like, well, I mean, they've been saying this for years, but all we see is a few houses popping up here and there, a couple new restaurants opening. But I don't think that they realize, a lot of the folks in town don't realize just how much is going up outside of Whitesboro, but in the immediate vicinity. But as a firefighter, you see that all, up 377 and all of throughout the area. And those are the people that are in the school district. Do we know, I don't know this answer, you might know better than me, what percentage of the students that go to Whitesboro live in the city limits?
The majority do.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but a high majority live within the city limits.
So we're not looking at being the minority at any time soon.
Oh no, sir.
Being more students outside than in.
I don't see that happening. No.
Yeah, if I think about my daughter's class, I think that I would guess that maybe 50-50 at this point. But she's in third grade.
Yeah.
What about your kid? What about your second grader? Any idea?
When
you think about who else is in there?
I think the majority now, there are a lot of people that live in the city, but there are a lot of people live in the country. Right. And so you'll see several of those. But I still consider that mostly Whitesboro.
Sure.
So, but yeah, definitely what you're saying with all the growth coming, people don't necessarily see it, but those houses up on Business 377,
So, other than that, like I said, it's these plans with the bond and the new buildings and the additional stuff added to the existing campuses, that will alleviate for a time the overcrowding issue. What are future issues that the district is going to face that may not be here? You may not see them in these 3 years, but something that's down the line. Like, what's the next thing that is okay, we're going to have to deal with this, but it's not here yet thing?
It's kind of here, but it's coming more so in the future. But just getting teachers for the school district, because education has kind of gone down with the number of people in college wanting to actually become teachers.
Yep.
So actually getting people to teach in Whitesboro. It's not necessarily that Whitesboro is a bad place to teach. It's a great place to teach.
Yep.
We have a lot of retention, but just getting these new positions as people retire, it's going to be a struggle to get. I mean, you see it around other places to where they're hiring younger and younger, and fewer with certifications that they're helping them get as they're teaching. Whitesboro is very fortunate in that we have a lot of tenure with our teachers, but eventually they're going to retire and we're going to need new teachers. So that's something that's up and coming that maybe a lot of people don't know, but not many people want to be teachers anymore.
How does one build a strategy to solve that issue? Is it a pay thing, a benefit thing? Is it a They want to work in Whitesboro because of the town, the environment. They want to get out of an area that they've been working in. They don't want to work in Denton or someplace anymore. They want to be here. What are the strategies that other districts have used to bring people in?
Oh, for sure. Pay is obviously one of the biggest things. So trying to stay competitive with the districts that are around us and our size. Benefits have always been a struggle for teachers. They're not the best benefits out there, but the school district does what it can. But I think the number one thing, and this is like in the career as a whole, like number one thing is never pay on what people stay. Environment is usually the number one thing that people stay for or leave for. And I think that Whitesboro's done a really good job of creating an environment that fosters good teachers and then retains them as well. So you just create that environment to where people want to be there. You'll take a little less pay for an environment that you love working and being in.
Yeah.
And you see that, like I said, in every other aspect of jobs. So
Our fire department.
absolutely. So, Solana's not the best paid department. It's getting up there. But the environment that they've created there and the culture that they've created there keeps people. And we see the future, the growth and everything that's coming. So you take a little less pay, but the benefits that you get with a wonderful environment and a great culture and a good city, which I know that's Salina. Whitesboro has it too. But you stay for those things. And the same thing happens with our school district. You have, like I said, you have a good administration, and they create these environments for these people, the teachers to thrive in. Mm-hmm. And it's good, and it keeps happening year after year.
So one of the questions I'm going to ask all the candidates that I can meet with, it's probably the most pressing, difficult to answer question that any leader in town can deal with. And it's because there's not really a good answer. 2, it's not a black and white issue. There is a gray area. It's just where in that gray area do you fall? And it's polarizing to an extent. Not necessarily controversial, but polarizing. People feel strongly about this one way or the other. And the question is, we as leaders in town, or former leaders in town, will have to answer to the fact that our town is in the surrounding area is growing significantly. And even though it may not be as visual as it will be soon, we all see it on the horizon. We can't pinpoint when that's coming or how significant it's going to be, but there's little doubt that it is coming. The question is the quandary that leaders on any side, in any role here in town, in which decisions are being made that help guide in the direction of the future of the town, whether it be school board or else, is the quandary of planning so that we can absorb that growth without being overwhelmed, and yet at the same time not come across to the public as wanting, intentionally inviting that as if it were an old friend that you're welcoming with an embrace, right? It's a difficult question because you can't pretend it's not happening.
For sure.
You can't go all in and say, all growth is positive. We can't wait until we're bigger and have more stuff. We can't wait to have an Applebee's at the corner. Is Applebee's still around? I don't know. What's a good one? What's a new one? Texas Roadhouse.
There we go.
At 82, right? It's a middle ground, right? So when you go out and sell a $112 million package, I'll play devil's advocate here, and raise everybody's taxes and all these things, right? And build bigger and build newer. Do you feel the pressure from the public looking at you and saying, you are pushing us towards the growth that many of us don't want? How do you all deal with that?
Oh, that's a good question. In reality, like the school system seems to be just trying to catch up with where it is now.
Yeah.
Because we could definitely build more and bigger and be okay. Just because we have so many kids in our school district, like definitely this early childhood center is going to help alleviate some of that pressure, but it's going to continue to grow. And regardless if we keep small facilities, just trying to like inhibit that growth, it's coming regardless. And all you're doing is now making it harder for all the teachers and students to be able to learn, and to learn in an environment that fosters being open spaces, and just being able to kind of grow. Because right now we're just catching up. And I know what you're kind of alluding to with the city of Whitesboro. We want that small town feel, and we want to continue to have that. But there are definitely ways to keep a small town feel and still grow into the future. And definitely the school district needs to do that as well. So,
is this something that y'all have discussions about amongst yourselves?
not necessarily. No, we know growth is coming, and we want to plan for it, and we want to be ready for it, because we definitely don't want to hinder someone's education because they're packed into a room, or you have teachers with, tons of students in their classroom to where they can't teach everyone effectively. We want to do the best that we can, and we don't just want to again inhibit growth. We want to make sure that every kid has what they need, and to do that, you have to continue planning for growth. Regardless, if you want to have that small town feel or small school feel, we just definitely want to be ready for it.
So another tough question for you.
Okay.
How did we get behind?
As a city or a school district?
School district.
A school district. It's just so
You
hard.
you said we were catching up.
Yes, catching up. Just because there was just an influx of kids, I believe. We went from having 80, 90 kids in a class to going to 130, 140. And it's not necessarily something that you can fix instantly. You can't snap your fingers and have bigger facilities or more classrooms. You have to do what you can. And you have to understand that everything costs money, a lot of money, with school buildings. That's one of the biggest things that I guess I learned, was that you can build a house fairly cheaply. But when you go to building like a public building, like a school or a fire department, everything costs so much more. But you can't snap your fingers and have the facilities that you need immediately. So it's going to take years to build a facility. So in the time that you are building that facility, it's not like growth has stopped. It still continues. Right. So as you build a facility that was supposed to house, 1,000 people in a school district, now by that time, now you're at 1,500. And so now you're only set to do 1,000. So then, when the 1,500, when you try to build up more than that, it just continues to grow. So we're just trying to catch up to where we need to be, and then continue to grow into the future.
Yeah, that's a good answer, and none of these are easy questions. It does sound like, though, that it was a relatively simple, decision for y'all. That it wasn't out of just foresight. It was out of absolute necessity to do this, and therefore it becomes a little easier to make that call. And being in that group and seeing the presentation of the situation that y'all were in with the overcrowding, I think it was pretty easy to. Now people can argue about the price of it all. That's one thing, but needing the facilities was pretty obvious, I think. And changing things to plan as things get built. Yeah, I get that. When we started talking about the water tower, the one we have at Godwin is 250,000 gallons. Mm-hmm. We talked about 500, maybe 750. And by the time that the whole process got done, it ended up being 1 million, which is probably smart, because if you're gonna build it for the future as well.
Absolutely.
Rather than having to build a third right around the corner. So that's a great answer, and that's a great approach. Are we? Let me ask you this though. One last tough question.
Okay.
Are we, by doing this and catching up to where we should have been? Not, and I get to what you're saying. Nobody could have foreseen this potential rapid growth, but now we do foresee even greater growth in the future. Is this enough? Are we doing enough now with this bond and these improvements? How long is this going to be enough until we need something else?
For sure.
And when that comes, what is that something else?
Yeah, so we're definitely going to have to look at more schools as the population continues to grow. This is going to take the pressure off for a little bit. I mean, probably a couple of years. I can't tell you for sure when the next facility that will need to be built, but it's definitely coming. The city, the school is very good about forecasting and looking and buying land, and land is a great investment. So I know that the school has bought some land. So we're definitely looking to the future, but at the same time, we have to protect the taxpayers as best as we can. So we do what we can when we can, and then the school system is very good at making do with what they can. And that's not always the best answer, but it protects everyone, and it saves a little bit of money. Like if we're not always trying to go out for the biggest and best things, you look down closer into the Metroplex and you have people spending, not millions of dollars, but billions of dollars on new sport complexes.
Yeah.
So we definitely don't want to be a city, yes, that want to be a part of that.
Let me see here. Let me pull this up.
I will say that it is easier, I think personally, to get things done with the school district because it involves children and our future. Some people aren't always as keen on doing things for the city because they don't feel like they get a return on their investment as much.
Right.
So when kids are involved, people are a lot more emotional, and they're a lot more forgiving of things like that. So they want to see growth happen a little bit faster.
Yeah, it's an easier ability to accept that. Plus, as a Whitesboro resident, you feel as though with the city project, it's only citizens that are paying.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, it's members of a huge area. It's a ton of people outside of our town city limits that are also going to be contributing to paying this stuff off. So it's a little bit easier.
For sure.
Yeah. So we had some questions from, let me see if I can pull this up. We had some questions from, let's see here. There we go. We had some questions from people here. Let's see. Mike Farmer asks things asking about shops, wood metal mechanics. Well, all this is part of the
that new CCE portion. It'll bring a lot of things that we didn't currently have in the school system, and it'll make it easier. I know that we're partnering with Grayson County as well to bring some of those things into the school district. So it really is going to be cool to see when it's done.
Can schools be a no cell phone zone? I know that at the younger levels, the kids, like my daughter does not have a cell phone. But she says that there are kids in third grade that have cell phones.
Absolutely.
They're not allowed to take them out. Maybe I sound like the old codger here by being surprised at this, but at the high school, I hear that they can have them out. Is that right? What's the policy? Do you know?
Yeah, I think that they can have them out as long as they're not hindering any kind of like learning or anything like that. I know that there are some classes, I believe, that do take them up, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
So is there a specific policy?
Not that I know of.
It's just up to...
Yeah. So, and this is the way I look at cell phones. The cell phones are the way of the future. Everyone has a device, and that's going to be what people use as they get older. So they need to learn to use it effectively and efficiently while they're kids. Now, you teach them how to use it correctly, and that way they're not using it for other things. But it is something that they've grown up with. So, like for us, when we were growing up, we didn't necessarily have cell phones. We had Game Boys. I mean, there were things about that, but...
You had Game Boys. I had Speak and Spell.
Oh, well, we had the original Game Boy and then Game Boy Color.
I did have a Walkman.
Yeah, a Walkman.
I used to have a cassette Walkman, and I would wear my jacket, and I would have the Walkman in the inside pocket, and then I would run the speaker wire down my sleeve.
Oh, nice.
And just the speaker headphone piece would be out, and I would do this and listen to music. I'd listen to Motley Crue while I'm in the middle of class. So we all did it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you a story that, because we talked about band a little bit. Percussion had its own closet, and we set up a small TV and a Nintendo in there. And while we were supposed to be doing, specific drumline practices, we would, play Nintendo. So I mean, we did it then, and I understand that parents want to go without cell phones while they're in school, but it is something that we've given them and that we expect for them to have on them at all times. Because I know that I check a location of our girls all the time with their cell phones, and it's a nice thing.
Oh, yeah?
Have. Yeah. So we get updates when they leave school or when they leave home, and we can check where they're at. So it's a nice thing to have. But as long as they use it, correctly, I think it's something that needs to stay.
We have a question about getting soccer as a school sport.
I know that they've talked about it. Was that Oh, it was a Reedy.
Yeah, it was a
I
Reedy.
thought it was
Well,
thought
not
it was
Rustin.
Rustin.
No.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've looked at in the past. It might be something that we see come up into the future. But a lot of things that people don't see when they say they want sports is you're looking for schools that have soccer teams, and not a lot of 3A schools have soccer teams. So now you're playing 4A, 5A schools that have
Right.
greater facilities, greater population of people playing soccer. So do you really want to jump into it now, and playing against all these bigger schools, driving far distances to play soccer, or wait a couple years until some closer develop and it makes it easier? So it's not something that we're just like absolutely against. I think that you'll see it in the future.
This we have one here that is a pretty philosophical question here. How will you separate your personal agendas from what's best for the entire school district? If your opinion's in the minority, will you support the majority? And this is a difficult question to ask in any situation where there's voting going on. I remember very well there was a very controversial vote that took place. I was an absolute no, but I quickly realized that that was the only no. And then the question arises is, do you want to go on the record as saying no so that your feelings are known by the public because that's how you feel? Or is it better to realize that you're not going to win and even though you disagree, vote yes so that at least the group shows unanimity in moving forward? And that's a tough battle because there's pros and cons to both. A couple different times. One time I chose one path,
Yeah.
one time I chose another path, and both were controversial. There's no way to win. So
For
the
sure.
question is how do you all handle that when that comes up?
For sure. And I see that Josh Felton
Yeah.
wrote this question. He's a big guy he's at the fire department.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot for us too. But yeah, you go into it thinking that you can have this personal agenda. And in reality, it's you and 6 other people trying to, work through issues. And, we all have kids in the system, or, recent kids in the system. So that helps. But when you come into the job like this, it's almost like you have to push your personal agenda aside and try to look and see what's best for everyone involved. And a lot of times it's hard because you have kids and you have an investment into the school district, and you definitely want to see your kids be successful and have the best facilities, have the best coaches, have the best teachers. And in a lot of cases, that might not be the case. So you're kind of voting a little bit against that. But like I said, I think you have to push aside that personal agenda. Look what's best for the school district in a whole. Is this going to cause a huge issue that maybe we can get fixed using something else? Like, let's do that. Maybe, we go through an improvement plan. Can we use that instead of necessarily just saying, we didn't like this, we're going to go away from it immediately? Or is it something that we can improve and kind of give more of what we want our vision to be and work that way? And I think that at a point, it gets to a point to where you can no longer say that and you have to take immediate action. But I think at the same time, you have to at least give it a chance to change. So I don't necessarily know if that's an answer that you're looking for.
I don't know that there is a it's all tricky.
It is. And, I will say that I definitely, when I came into being on the school board, I definitely had not necessarily a personal agenda, but I had a way of how I thought things happened and went on and how much effect that I could have. But you realize that, again, you're one of 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have as much say as you would like, especially on personal issues. So you see something happening and you want to change it and change it immediately. And you realize that that's not the best for the school district as a whole. So you kind of have to, just take it for a little bit, and then until you can find a better change. So
Yeah, I think often we come into these types of leadership roles with a handful of things we want to try to accomplish, and then with the idea of, well, why hasn't this gotten done? This couldn't be too difficult. And then when you get in there and you learn the backstory, the behind the scenes stuff, you look at the numbers, you look at the whatever, you get the when you have that additional information and you see how the process works and you've learned it, then oftentimes it's now I see why this hasn't been done before, or it was done but nobody knew that we tried it because it didn't work. something along those lines where that added information, that insider type of knowledge, gives you more wisdom, and you go, okay, now I see that this is the answer. The answer isn't whether we did it or not. There's more to it.
Absolutely. And in some cases, the public should be protected from some things, as well as protecting, the people and things at the school district.
Yeah.
And we can't say everything. There's some things that are protected. And like those things aren't there to hurt people.
Right.
But you definitely do what you can. So like I said, when I got on, it was completely different than what I thought it was going to be. So it's less about you as an individual and it's more about as you as a group of 7 doing the best that you can to create that environment we want for our kids.
I want to tell you that I appreciate you coming today. I appreciate, like I said at the beginning, your willingness to serve. I appreciate the last 6 years.
Oh, thank you.
All of you have done in our time being here, we couldn't be happier with the ISD.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
And I know that our experience with our kids has been nothing but positive at the 2 of the youngest campuses. And there are people in the district that we've come in contact with, we've become friends with, and we're big fans of, because they clearly have the best intentions for our kids. And so my wife and I are big supporters of the ISD, and we appreciate the decisions y'all have made over the last few years. We appreciate your willingness to do something that's not easy, getting a bond passed, and agree or disagree with it, voting for or against it. There's no doubt that a ton of time and effort and stress went into getting all of that done.
For sure.
And there's definitely something admirable about having a vision, working together as a team to get it done, and then trying to convince the public to follow.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck in this election, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come down here and visit with me for a while. It's good getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, thank you. I really do appreciate the time to come out and answer some questions and at least kind of let people know a little bit more of who I am. And the only plug that I will say is you don't necessarily have to vote for me, but I really hope that a lot of people will come out and vote this year for the school board. So it's always better when more people come and vote because we have a better consensus of what the city wants.
Yeah.
So you don't have to vote for me, but just get out there and vote. That's all I would say.
It's a great message.
So
thanks for being here, Michael.
yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Thanks,
man. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us on another episode. Wait, where am I? There we go. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Life in the Borough. This is a one in a series of videos for the candidates for the 2025 school board election coming up. Election is May 3rd. Is that right? May 3rd. Yeah,
yep.
Saturday. But early voting starts this Monday. Is that correct?
Pretty soon, yeah.
Yeah. So these are going to be coming out middle of the week, late week. So we'll miss a few days, but we'll get still some of the early voting, and then of course Election Day. Do you know that about 65% of all votes in Whitesboro are early voting?
It's way better.
Yeah.
So if you can get out and early vote,
Uh-huh.
it takes a few minutes to early vote versus trying to go on the actual election day.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my wife will try to go together, and you get in and out pretty quick.
Yeah.
So way better.
Yeah, I agree. So get out there and vote. Vote early. Don't vote often, though. We'll see you guys next time on Life in the Borough. Thanks, Cal.